Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi, everyone. I almost said it's Bayana. I'm not Bayana. It is Robyn and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Today, we are reading chapters 37 through 39 of Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn.
Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at AmericanExpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
Before I get into that, let's talk about what happened previously on Wizard Team. First off, Bree realized that Sel had been mesmerizing her, so she couldn't see him succumbing to his demon blood, which is very trifling of Sel. After he tells Bree that he despises the order, Valak shows them how deeply he does actually despise the order by hosting a game of Deal or Die to force Bree to tell him about his magic. But Alice is not going to let her girl go out like that, so she comes up with a deal that exposes a thieving staff member in exchange for letting the crew go and taking them to Lucille. That find out when they do meet Lucille that she's actually Valak's many times great niece, also is Mariah's auntie. So there's relations happening, but none of the relations are between Valak and Maria, which she is like, thank God for. Lucille is suspicious of Bree, especially since she is with order members, but with Mariah vouching for her, she gives them a chance. She agrees to take Bree and the others to a station on the way to a place called Volition, where she will be able to practice her roots safely in exchange for Bree eventually defeating Hunter, who specifically preys on root crafters. So we had thought that he was hunting after Bree's family line specifically, but it turns out he just be going after any kind of root where he can find it, and he left Bree's line to marinate for his particular liking. On the way to the station,
I just want to say before you keep going, I just feel like root crafters in the root crafting community have been through enough. Just in the sense of like most of their ancestors are the descendants are enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
And then even when slavery was quote unquote over, racial trauma and nonsense abound. So just being Black in America is enough. And then this guy is like, you know what? With a nice bottle of Chianti.
That's what I was saying. But also, like,
delicious. Like,
go. He said, double it and give it to the next person. He's like, oh, y'all are already going through a lot. Let's double it and give it to more of y'all, and then double it and give it to more of y'all.
You know what it reminds me of? It's like, don't do this, but when I found out how they make frogwa, or like how frogwa is made, that is basically like what the hunter is doing. It's like generational trauma. And like, this may not be true, but this is because, we're going through this from Bree's perspective. I get the sense of like, the more traumatic, the more the like root crafters are in touch with their ancestors and needing to like get root from their ancestors. And so he's like, let's just fatten them up. Let's just make sure that it tastes just right. And like, please, sir, please. Okay, that's it. That's all.
If only Please, Please, Please was about demons going after Black folks. Heartbreak is one thing. My ego's another. and his ego's doing a lot. Anyway, sorry. Finishing this all off, this is a recap for previously. On the way to the station, we learned that Valak was the half-demon baby that we saw being born through Bree's first memory walk, which taps into what we were just having our sidebar on trauma on, because Homeboy shares this information kind of lightheartedly when Bree says, "Oh, I saw it. I know your mama's name. Her name Pearl." The Homeboy traumatized automatically back into slave times because the man lived during slavery, through Reconstruction, through Jim Crow, through the Civil Rights Movement, through everything that's gotten us to where we are today. And the man's puts on a happy face because that's what we do as Black folks. And then in the same breath, is ready to not go down memory lane ever again because it's a lot. It's very traumatic. And that's where we end off.
Nice, happy, sunny. Nothing to see here. You know. Chapter 37. Maria, Alice, Bree, and Valak arrive at Miss Hazel's. And Maria says that she is actually Lucille's partner of about 35 years. This is like a question that I have because we don't actually see Lucille at this, what they're calling it a station. It's like, I'm assuming just Miss Hazel's house, home though. Is it business partner? I read it as like romantic partner.
Same, but we don't get any clarifying answers in this moment.
But then she just like don't show. Maybe it's because Lucille knows that she sent Bree and a Merlin and a Legendborn into Miss Hazel's house, and like it's just like, I'm gonna make myself scarce until they go. Because the way that Miss Hazel, like the way that Lucille reacted when she met Will and Sel, and then the way that Miss Hazel's about to react, like you can tell that is like we're on this, this, it's not the Underground Railroad, but it's like the root crafting equivalent of the Underground Railroad. I don't know if they call it.
We get into it.
Yeah, but we're at this, like, I'm at the station. I've like committed to like helping and sheltering root crafters in need. So I'm not going to turn away Bree, but I'm not happy about her and her crew rolling up in this house, right? So like my aside is just like, I want to know if it is a romantic relationship, what Miss Hazel says when she and Lucille get in the same room again. And I would like to think that like Lucille called her or checked in, not in the like, oh, I'm, because they have different ways of doing that. You don't want to be like caught on the phone or whatever. Not like, but just like a, hey, my love, I'm going to be staying at the lounge tonight because I've got a lot of work to do or what. I don't know. I just feel like if my partner sent some assholes to my home and was like, make them comfortable and keep them safe, and then didn't show up to help me, I would feel a type of way about it. So it's not a big deal, but it's just something to
Lucille
ponder.
has her job. Miss Hazel has hers. So they probably have an understanding.
Yeah. I just think that like, understanding or not, you send a Merlin in my home and a conversation needs to be had. So Bree asks if they're following the Underground Railroad since Miss Hazel is coded as a conductor. Her home is a station, and they are like, it's a stop along the way to Volition. And Valak says it's not quite that, but it's very similar, and the technology that they use and stuff is like similar. And then Miss Hazel comes out and recognizes or welcomes them with a big meal of mac and cheese, cornbread, and fried chicken. Gives Bree this big hug. Like Bree is like, I feel enveloped. Those big mama hugs. Was like, really, just, you are exhausted, you are running on 11, your adrenaline's high, and then someone gives you that like, so sorry, but Eon Van Zandt, have you ever laid your head on big bosoms? Like that kind of is the welcoming that Bree is getting.
Yeah.
Will and Sel pull up, and like that atmosphere, dead.
I just like, I love how Miss Hazel just sounds like a peach, like in like a gem. Like she's just like someone you want to have in your
Yeah.
life. She's welcome you in this way. Like she ain't your mama. She ain't even related to you, but she's willing. Like as soon as you come into her house, you know the vibes. And like that's like kind of energy you want to keep in your life. And I also appreciate that like whatever like tradition they're keeping in practice from the Underground Railroad, like I feel like that is a way of maintaining Black legacy, which I see as a win for
Yeah.
us. That like because it's so much of Black legacy has been erased. So I love that they're maintaining at least some traditions, and I feel like Miss Hazel is also embodying that in her presence and being welcoming and having her house be in this way.
Right. And like even when afterwards like Bree mentions like the meal and it's like that's like Thanksgiving, and Miss Hazel's like that used to just be Sunday dinner.
Which is why there was a lot of high blood pressure and other ailments from
Yeah.
Woo! Black, I love us.
There's good and the bad.
I love us so much.
I will say though, I come from a family that still does do like a Sunday like spread, Sunday dinner type of thing. Sometimes it's not on Sunday. Sometimes my mom will just be like, she was going to Oklahoma last week. So on Tuesday was Sunday dinner. She fried fish. She caught like cabbage, cornbread, you know. We was living life. There was potatoes, they were cheesy. It was great. I appreciate those moments too, just because it's like very like you said, it's just like a recentering. It's very like Black. But I also think in some ways too, it's very, and I say this as someone who is Southern adjacent. Like we are very much like my grandmother's people, like they're all like from Oklahoma and Mississippi, and it's like 2 generations, right? So my mom and dad were born in California, but both of my grandparents were born in Oklahoma. My grandfather was born in Mississippi. Like it's not, you know, we're not that far removed. So even our like even when our Sunday dinners turn out to be like tacos, it's still the same kind of like vibe, right? I just also love that inherently, if you are coming to a station or a stop, you are doing so in a traumatic and or very stressful way, right? You need to be sheltered. You're like asking for shelter, right? So
for security when you're living unsafely, like you're not safe,
right?
Yeah,
right. And so she very clearly is like, whenever they let them know that she's going to have these people coming, she starts to build an environment that they can come in and immediately relax and feel welcome. And obviously they're still going to be on alert, but like, you know, just rest. And it's not like she hasn't fried the chicken yet, but like making cornbread, even if it's Jiffy, making mac and cheese, like it's a labor, right?
That mac
Especially,
and
like,
cheese take time.
That baked mac and cheese,
that take time.
You know what I mean? So she's probably like since they started talking to Lucille, and Lucille made her phone call and said, okay, I got a place for y'all to go. As soon as that phone hung up, she was like, well, let me get ready. So she's been working, grabs Mariah, gives her a big old hug, grabs Bree, gives her a big old welcoming hug. The minute Will and Sel pull up, she's like, excuse me, record scratch. Dalek says they're Lucille approved, and Sel very smartly is like, thank you so much for your hospitality. I'm gonna go sweep the perimeter and patrol, and just gets out of there. And I think like Dalek definitely knows that William is Legend born or has some level of like ether and stuff. I don't know, and I'm assuming that Miss Hazel does too. I don't know how well that they can like recognize other magic practitioners.
I would assume they can pretty well because they've had to be on hiding, so they have to know how to hide out from people who look like a certain, like they know the ether vibes, basically.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because like Maria like knew about like Bree pretty quickly, and then so I think that they just like know that, like, but even still, William is just better able to, I don't want to say tamp it down, but like he just seems much more in control of himself, whereas we just got through talking about like how far gone Sel is, and like even just in looks. So it's like not only is there a Merlin in my home, but like this Merlin is
devolving,
not doing well, unbalanced. And so I just remember you guys going off on Sel last episode, rightly so. But this is like the moment where I'm like, okay, he has been smacked around enough that like he's at least getting some level of sense back. I'm not, all of the sense isn't coming back, but some.
Tail between his legs, a hit dog will holler. At this point, this dog is like, okay, I'm a head on.
I'm a head out. Thank you so much. I'm gonna get out of here. You don't need to look at me. I understand. Like, and then they sit down and have dinner. I love it. I love it so much because it is just so like, it's so Black and Southern Black and like, ugh. So as soon as everyone eats, so Miss Hazel dismisses Will to the back of the house. She's like, your room is back there. Valak leaves. He takes Mariah's car to go back to lunch, but he says he will be back the next day. And then Alice, Maria, Bree, and Miss Hazel sit out on the porch and they start drinking tea and talking about, Root and the meal. And that's like what we were talking about, where Bree's like, this was like Thanksgiving level, and Miss Hazel's like, this is like, it used to just be Sundays, right? Not that it's not special. It's not an everyday meal, but it's not a once a year, or it used to not be a once a year thing. And I kind of feel like Miss Hazel's whole thing is like, we losing recipes. I need you and Maria to like, hold on to Rootcraft and what we, and just the whole community vibe.
Do you want to get into the description though? Like, because like it gave fall atmosphere vibes, and it gave like, this is a little situation and atmosphere I would love to just like. Miss Hazel is basically living the dream, is what I'm saying.
Miss Hazel very much gives me if things work out when Porshèa retires, this is kind of what her vibe will be.
There will be.
It will probably be in New Orleans as opposed to Georgia. She'll be in a parish and not a county, but this is where we going, right? So it says, let me go back. So when they walk into Miss Hazel's home, it's the warm, rich sense of all-day cooking goes straight to my stomach. Sharp, mouth-watering smell of baked mac and cheese, fresh-baked cornbread sitting out to cool, and underneath it all, hot oil hanging heavy in the air from something deep-fried. In the corner, green ferns and strings of pearl plants hang from terracotta and sapphire baskets. Plotted plants stand like guardians at each threshold, ushering us through a den and a living room with plastic-covered couches. I love my people, but we need to get away from the plastic-covered couch. But
I feel like I haven't,
especially in the South when it's humid and hot and it's sticky and then it makes a noise. I love us, but
I mean, I just want to say that was just normal that you just had to deal with it.
You had to deal with it.
I want to say though, since I've been down south, and it's gonna be because the older folks have passed on, I've not seen near as many plastic cover sofas as I used to. Like significantly less. And
good job.
I think, and I wrote in my notes, like I may spend time. It's how I love that you have a cute little idea for myself, assignment for myself. I would love to spend some time writing an essay on plastic on the sofa and the fact that Black folks kind of have this level of like preservation for items because, you know, it's really hard to get the money to save up and get those big major items. Once you get them, you're doing your best you can to preserve what you got. And even whenever it's just a regular item, that's why you're reusing the butter, crock butter things for your like leftover containers, because you're preserving with what you got. You're not trying to do too much.
I just gave my mom a home cooked meal in container that is from like a frozen Costco type of thing, and she said, "Did you really make me buy you raw tacos to give me something that I gave you from Costco?" I said, "No, woman, I just used them.
I'm reusing.
I washed it. I reused it. Open it. It's different.
Like you know the vibes. Like,
you know the vibes." She said, "You could at least take off the label," and I said, "My bad. That's on me." This is where the recipe. This is where the generational. Because my mom is like, at least make it classy.
The least you can do,
fine, but like, take off the labels if you can. You know. I said, okay, I'll do better. But yeah, I think now too, because I am currently looking at, because I slept on my couch because my dog is recovering from surgery. Friday night, I slept on my couch because I didn't want to put her in my bed. It is very uncomfortable. I said, "Oh no, I need a new couch." But I also looked at like a couch cover. Just wouldn't be plastic.
But the thing about, so that's the thing. Again, you're not looking. You're looking to live on your couch. You're looking to interact with your couch. Whenever, like, again, let's talk about Southern living, okay?
The living room.
Because
the living room.
There's a difference between a parlor, a den, and a living room. Okay, the den is always where the folks actually can sit down. No matter what, the den is where y'all can rest, watching some TV, talk all you want to talk. You can even have food in there sometimes. The den. The living room, if there's no parlor, the living room is the parlor. And that is where the plastic is on the sofa. Those are just for you to look at and marvel and tell whomever the decorator is they did a great job at decorating.
And we made it. Look, Ma, we made it. We out here.
They keep that place dusted. They keep that place. They got their precious memories. They got whatever they need. They got their home decor. What is it? Home interior decor with the different paintings and they got what they need in their place. They got the sconces. They know what they're doing in there, and that plastic is to preserve. So no, when you walk in there, even a 3-year-old child knows you ain't supposed to sit in here. This ain't it. Go and take yourself back outside. This is not the space for you, baby.
I'm gonna start calling my family's living room the parlor. Because it is very much that. Though, I will say, even though in terms of like losing recipes, there's no plastic on our sofa in there. My 2-year-old niece has claimed that for her own. And my mom, because we don't go in there, went in there the other day and took a picture. And there was just Legos everywhere. She had made a tunnel and a fort.
And if there were plastic on the sofa, that would not be inviting.
And my mom said, "Oh."
The plastic is a deterrent. It's like a
This is not the playroom.
This ain't it.
It's not where you should be playing at. Okay, so then I'm gonna skip forward or whatever. After they eat, I just have to. When I say that Miss Hazel dismissed William to the background, it says Miss Hazel shoos William to the back of the house to settle in. She said, "All right, gone now." Not. You know, when the mama say like, "Oh, it's grown folks' business. It's grown folks talking. Go on."
Same thing for the men's folk too, because like the man ain't supposed to be in the women's business. The man's supposed to be outside where the grill is. Y'all can go drink some. I don't care. Don't be over here.
Don't be over here. And so this is more that. This is more like don't be in women's business. This is now because like Alice is fine. Alice is good on any MLK Boulevard, but William. You can go on back there, get comfortable, take a nap, take a rest, lay your head. Thank you. William goes gladly with a thank you, ma'am, by the way, which is why I'm saying.
That's how you know he's a Southern man, because white Southern or black, it don't matter. If he's Southern, you know how you approach an older woman. You be like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. and you keep it moving.
Thank you for the meal.
Whatever she tells you to
for
do,
the
you do it.
Don't. I'm out. So appreciative. And then Miss Hazel says that she'll fix them some tea and tells them to go sit. The porch, this is the Robyn coded part of this, even though like mine again would not be in the South because I ain't got time for that humidity. Though if it's a like a roomed, like what's it called, a fenced in porch? Not a fenced in. Fenced in is weird. But if it's like the closed in porch,
closed in,
maybe.
It's not a sunroom. It's
but
literally
also,
a porch.
But also, I have a beef with the fact that you have to have your outdoor space closed in because the outdoors is so inhospitable.
You have to have a screen. You have to have that bug screen.
You know, I understand why. I understand why, but what I'm saying is that just means that this is not the place for me to be. This region. I be getting ate alive in California. Ain't no way. Anyway, so the porch extends in a square around the back of the house, which means wraparound porch. If we weren't in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, I'd be like, Miss Hazel got money.
What I mean?
Wrap around.
She might be that girl. Her family might have been had this.
We don't know Miss Hazel's business, but
I love me a wraparound porch.
A wraparound porch.
That is gold.
Is a status symbol. I don't care if you built it if your grandmama built it, your great-great-grandpapa. I don't care who built it. You got a wraparound porch. You got something. Okay? So it's a peninsula in the green expanse of her backyard. Beyond the yard is a deep wooded area where daylight goes to rest. Woods like that pull you in because they feel like an adventure. But you just know those same adventuring woods will lead you back with all the souvenirs nobody wants. Poison ivy oil, then a rash, ticks in your collar, chiggers in your socks. I said, Lord made me California.
This is what separates those who grew up Southern. Like some people grow up Southern, move away. I'm one of those. There's some people who grew up Southern, like, they leave earlier than I left. Like, I left when I was 18. People be leaving there, like, the 7th grade. But if you have a childhood down South, everything that was just described, it's just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what to do so that certain things aren't as much of a problem. The other day, I was out with a friend. Yesterday, I was out with one of my friends who's also from Tennessee, who I met in Brooklyn. So, like, we both live in Brooklyn now, both from different parts of Tennessee, but we both appreciate each other for being able to talk about Tennessee stuff. And we were out and we saw people doing double dutch, and we both agreed how we never learned how to double dutch. Like, I feel like that's a city girl learning. We did not. So we were describing.
You were out there picking lightning bugs and jars and all that.
We was climbing trees. We was walking around in the grass with barefoot in some mud. We was good for that. I can
show you where the creek is.
I can crank the creek you up. I got you. But when it comes to some double dutch, the girl playing around a fire hydrant, I seen it in movies. I don't know nothing about that life.
You know, we're not a monolith. Okay, last thing, and then we will keep going just to set the scene. Okay. The Mariah folds her legs underneath on a wicker love seat. I love myself a wicker love seat. We have one at my parents' house. I love a wicker. And then Bree drops down in an Adirondack chair.
Can we talk about there's a swinging bench too? Because that's what I love.
Oh, wait.
A bench swing?
A bench swing. Miss Hazel got a vibe. Okay, cottagecore is like a thing, right? This is cottagecore adjacent, and we need a name for this, like southern something core.
Grandmama's house.
Yeah. I love it. I love it more in theory and on the page, just because I know that as soon as I set my happy ass out there, I'd have been 90% mosquito bites.
You gotta prepare. And I'd be sweating for no reason.
Man, they love me. I got the new stem Repellent, which someone told me is the best. You told me is the
Mhm.
best one. But then I feel like I'm all like, it just sits on top. Even though I'm rubbing it in, I feel all shiny and.
It's a natural oil. They're all natural.
I know, but I don't like it.
Well, I don't have the same skin issues you have, so maybe that's the difference. I have sensitive skin, and it's fine for me, and it keeps me.
It's not
I didn't
even
get
like
bit. Did you get bit though?
No. It's not even a problem with like my skin. It's just a texture thing. I don't like when I feel like. I'm saying slimy, but that's not the right word, and greasy is not the right word either. But it is.
You don't like oil-based products? I use oil-based sunscreen, so I could see why, because it doesn't bother me. So like they're
I need it to like rub into my skin.
You want, like,
I don't like when I feel like. Yeah, I don't like the feeling of things sitting on top. Which is the point.
It's oil. Like
it's the barrier, but it feels.
How does it feel after a couple of look? Now we're on a whole other tangent.
We're okay. Yeah, it's fine. We'll talk about that offline. It feels fine after a while, but that initial stops me from starting. Anyway, so where were we? So Miss Hazel has shooed William to the back of the house. Go do whatever it is that you do. And then they sit on the porch, drink tea, talk about the meal, talk about root crafting, talk about just some real Southern shit. And I love it. And then Miss Hazel, after she's gotten, she's connected with Bree and Alice. They're already like on her, Mariah vouches for them, so they're already kind of like on a plus side, and she's now spent quality time, had a good conversation with them. She looks at Bree and says, "That Merlin, you trust him?"
She said, "You trust that boy," which is
you trust that boy.
Southern way of saying that, yes.
And she says, "With my life." That Merlin boy, though, she didn't just say that boy, that Merlin boy. Because she's not going to let you forget his title. She's not going to let you forget where he came from. And she hums and says, "Then I'll go fix the Merlin a plate." I don't need to know his name. I don't need to know nothing else about him. You trust that Merlin boy with your life? I'll go fix that Merlin boy a plate. And that's all I can do. That's as good as it's going to get over here. And then my favorite thing of this entire book series to this point, I'm talking about everything that happened in Legendborn, everything that's happened so far in Bloodmarked. My favorite sentence to this point: "We sleep in the next day. By the time I make it to the kitchen, yawning every step of the way, Alice and William are at the counter chatting with Mariah over a book of pressed herbs." We sleep in. How long is it? Bree has not had a decent sleep.
She's only been away to school for a couple of months.
Yeah. And trauma after trauma after trauma.
And it says that the trees have already released their leaves, save for a few that float down. So it's like towards the end of her first semester, basically.
Yeah. She wasn't sleeping. I mean, we don't know how well or not she was sleeping beforehand, but she was before getting to school dealing with traumatic grief. Then she was dealing with demons and nonsense, and then she was being mesmered to sleep. Well, you don't even know if that is even good sleep.
I doubt it.
She was being put to sleep, and then she was on the run,
and then she was having Arthur vision dream sleep.
And then she was having Arthur visions in her sleep.
She has not rested. She has slept. She has not rested. Yeah. And there is a deep difference.
There's a huge difference. So just in general, shout out to sleeping and then sleeping in. And then waking up when your body says, "All right, I've had enough." Not waking up and being like, oh, we gotta go. Not waking up and being like, I'm about to be late for class. Not waking up because you heard some Gorchell disturbance. Not waking up because some Merlin is banging on your door talking about it's time to go get interrogated. Just your body saying, okay, I'm ready to start the day. Love it. Love that for her. Love that for William. Love that for Alice. Sel is already out patrolling. William said he came in to sleep for a little bit and then went back out to lick his wounds. And you know what? Love that for him because he needs to have that tail tucked behind his legs.
That's why the dog metaphor maintains itself, because doghouse, dog ways, dog sulking, like do what you need to. Just know who.
Unless you're my dog who says, fuck it. I do what I want. Sel's out in the woods patrolling, licking his wounds. And Alice says, Maria, I need your help because we about 2.5 seconds away from Bree going out there and following Sel to have a altercation, and we just got here. She just rested, but she ain't barely rested. Said, if we don't intervene right now, Bree is going to head out to the woods and confront Sel instead of, I don't know, taking a beat to recover from the last day in which she was rescued from the Institute, taken to, or almost murdered by a demon, and then had to flee there, gone to the Crossroads Lounge, put all of her root craft on display to Lord knows who and whom else, got Valak's attention, made to play a game of Deal or Death, etc., etc., etc.
Learned that
found out that she was mesmering her. Alice said, please. Please. Mariah says, I know just what to do. Back to the porch. They go to the porch, and Bree sits on a cushion in front of the wicker love seat with Mariah's knees at her back, her hands in the hair, and says, you're going to need some sort of style to contain all this hair if you're going to be on the run. Alice says, getting attacked by demons definitely requires an updo, especially if the half demon in your party who's supposed to protect you is an actual asshole. Alice has never not said what she meant and meant what she said. Love that for her. I also would say we don't have time for box braids. We don't have time. That's like, considering the amount of, or just the descriptions of Bree's hair that we have so far, box braids in general are like an 8 to 10 hour proposition if someone really knows what they're doing.
Excuse me?
And you're not.
Excuse me.
What?
Where do you get your hair braided with 8 to 10 hours to get your hair box braided?
I'm saying if someone really knows what they're doing, the African, no?
4
my hair
to 5 hours.
4 to 5?
For box braids
by
the Africans. It's called Harlem. It's called Brooklyn.
It ain't never taken me less.
Girl, you need to bring your butt to Harlem or to Brooklyn. I would never. You ain't never gonna keep me in a chair for 8 to 10 hours.
8 to 10.
No, baby, no.
I'm talking about an at-home auntie doing the hair.
Even
children running around.
8 to 10, girl.
8 to 10.
No.
If I'm going to an African to get it braided and I'm paying, it takes me 6 to 7, and I'm like, wow, that's great.
I am so sorry. I've never heard. The quickest I've had it has been 4. The longest I've had it has been 6.
I have never heard of it taking 4 hours.
4. And you know what happened with the 4? It was multiple braiders. It was exceptional.
Okay, multiple braiders with girl, you fancy. You got a team. And the point was that they don't have 8 to 10 hours to do this. Also, they're in the middle of nowhere, so where are they getting the hair? You know what I mean? It's just not possible.
I want the
but
magic system to have the ability to be like beauty supply pop up, just like
right. But I will say, and the whole point of that whole tangent was just to say, if on the run from demons, box braid seemed like the best choice. Maybe Marley twist. Maybe.
I feel like the thing
Because
about
even an updo.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm like, I feel like that my thing is that like I would, if it was, yes, braids feel like the best option, but depending on Bree's hair length, like I would advocate for a braid bob. So you could like, so it's like not getting into stuff.
Yeah, that's how long you're not getting caught up.
Yeah. Or if she's a wig girly, because all that demon blood be splattering around, you can just dispose some suckers, go on to the next.
So some cornrows
and some, and you know what?
Cap and
they've been doing cute little cornrow designs. So you can just get cute little cornrow design, rock that out, like keep doing it whenever it needs to get refreshed, and then you can just like knock the demon blood off, get another one.
Right, because I just was like, okay, listen, the updo, I understand what you're saying, as in like keeping the hair out of the way, but the demon blood, the demon stuff in the updo,
no. The way
you have to take it all out. No. You gotta get that out.
She should just get a cornrow design.
I would literally, the first demon attack or the aftermath of the demon, I would be like, there's shit in my hair. You know what I mean?
I'd be so upset.
You know, you have the updo and like there's like you get and you're just like I
got gel that's meant to be there. I got blood and excrement
and it's
on top.
And how much of it has seeped in and is nearing my scalp as I walk? How much? So I just, we love Alice. Alice is not of the culture. Mariah agreed with her though.
She needs a cornrow. Like
she put the updo in.
Maybe by next book we're doing cornrow patterns, because that is
Tracy.
Put some hearts in there. Put some like aether flame design in the cornrow. Because you can
Tracy.
You can put it on.
Miss Deonn.
If you're trying to have a cute little moment, you need to go incognito. You can pull a collier, put on a little wig, get into the establishment, whip it off as a distraction, and you still got your little cornrow base. It's a win. It's a win-win all around.
I'm about to put this on Twitter, and I'm about to @ Tracy Deonn in general, but
you know what? We should create like a board, like a mood board of the different.
A mood board of the styles you need, the protective styles you need when running/fighting demons. Because the way in which she has described Bree in the aftermath of some of these attacks and fights, an updo, a bun? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. So they're outside. Alice is giving Maria all the tea on Sel and Bree, while Maria is doing Bree's hair. And this probably takes like an hour and a half, maybe. She's doing the moisturizer leave-in, coat the strands. She's doing all of the upkeep needed, the maintenance needed, the moisture routine. So they end with so they're debating styles, but they end with most of her hair pinned up in a bun with a dozen flat twists and a few curls loose at the front.
Bree needs to be a better advocate, and Alice needs to pay more attention, because you have loose curls. You have loose curls, and demon blood gets slung at you every other day. Why would I have my curls out loose when demon blood is being flung at me every other day?
And a flat twist. I love a good flat twist. It is not going to stay.
It's not just,
when you're running, that shit is going to look a mess.
It sounds cute.
You gotta bring it.
It sounds cute. But if she were going to just walk around campus like she's supposed to be doing, that would make sense.
It's not a good 2-3 day hairstyle. You know, tie it up. It lasts 2-3 days. 3 days of just living life. Your flat twists need to be redone. 3 days on the run, in the woods, demons coming at you. Flat twists.
You're doing flips. You're doing tumbles. You're doing somersaults. You're getting spider monkeyed. And you got loose curls.
You're getting spider monkeyed with loose curls is crazy.
Because it's crazy.
It's crazy. That's... Girl. Ma'am. When I read flat twist, I said, now listen.
I suspend a bit of disbelief for a fantasy story, but I draw the line.
I draw the line at them talking. They said getting attacked by demons requires an updo. If you're gonna need some sort of style to contain it if you're on the run. They knew what she was coming up against, and they decided on flat twist
with loose curls.
With a loose curl. With a bun. God knows what. And didn't even end it with, oh, my mama got this magic root scarf that we gonna tie.
Now and then that I would be down for. We're gonna magic scarf that preserves your hair longer than extends your preserved life for your hair. I'm here for that. But we don't got that. No.
A dozen flat twists. A few loose curls at the front, and it's early afternoon. Of course it's early afternoon because she ain't you could corn roll it into a bun. The cornrows into a, you know what I mean? Like you like, and then when in doubt, you take the bun out, you know, rub it out, you brush it, and then you put it back up.
And if you want to have a cute little moment, you know, you could, like, it could be a braid out in the back.
Right. This is distressing. We just went from one of my favorite moments in the book in which, you know, Bree gets to sleep in to...
We are not even, like, Bayana would kill us because we need to get through this chapter and we're not
Okay, we gotta go. Okay, so it's early afternoon. Valak returns for dinner. Bree doesn't talk to Sel. She out here looking, I'm sure, adorable in her flat twist bun and loose curls. But, you know, okay. She steps back out onto the porch, the unlit front porch, after the meal to find Valak sitting on a metal chair and says, "What to do, powerhouse?" He pulls out a flask of ether. They, you know, trade it back and forth. She gets some happy thoughts. And then Valak is staring at her while she's like imbibing this ether and says, "Interesting. I want to know what he sees," because he's staring. And then he decides now's a good time to talk about Sel. So that Cane Boy has been out there. When he said a perimeter sweep and patrol, he meant it. He started sweeping a half mile out, real methodical, silent as death. And if I didn't know to listen, I wouldn't even know that he was there. And then Valak decides, I like Bree. This seems like a lot's going on. He's out there licking his wounds, tail between his legs. I feel a bit of sympathy for him.
And this is how you can tell that this man has age on him, because he is like, to me, he is like kind of like a healed, a partially healed version of what Sel could look like in the future.
Right.
And like, especially like, and I think that comes with age. Like, you have to be able to like look back at things and be like, you know what? I'm gonna give, like, I gave the kid a hard time. I'm gonna give a little grace here. You know, like, I don't have to do that what I'm about to do, but I'm gonna do it because, you know, everyone's going through something rough, and who am I to like, you know, not be able to offer myself in this moment when I actually have the ability to do that, you know?
And it recognizes that, like, I don't like him. I don't like the set he claimed. I don't like where he come from. But he going through it. And like genuinely cares about Bree.
And Sel's not here yet.
Obviously.
Like, Sel's not like in that mindset where I could never see Sel doing that, like right now. But I feel like maybe.
Right. With some work and some distance and some more work, steady diet of ether, I guess, to keep him a little bit more balanced. So he says, I kind of sympathize for him. How does he goes, I may not approve of his methods. I'm very open in my business, as you know, but I admit to sympathizing because violations of consent and trust to the front, he says, impact over intent are always. But, you know, there's a fear like emanating from Sel that I understand. And he says it's not a fear of safety, it's a fear of judgment. He really likes you. He really doesn't want you to see him in a poor light. Or in a poor light that he's not in control of, right? Because I do think that Sel recognizes that he is a diva and he is dramatic and can like scream and have a hissy fit.
Like Legendborn, he wanted to scare Bree out of her wits. That's why he was throwing demon bodies in her direction as he making sure she could saw him like bloodying up some things. Like, he was doing it on purpose.
But he also does that to enough other people, not the demon body stuff, but like, you know, just being just causing a scene and a ruckus. He does it enough that like the Legendborn would just be like, here he go again, right? Like, he is comfortable with that level of drama and dramatics and like, I guess, being viewed negatively, but it's a negativity that's like under his control.
It's a but it's a negativity that plays into his facade of power, of being powerful and dangerous. He wants you to think of him as a dangerous person, and if you're on his bad side, as even like a lethal danger. But if he cares about you, and he, sadly for him,
and a little out of control, like the amount of like, I don't know, like the way in which, sorry to bring this up, but like Kendrick, right? Right. We keep talking about Kendrick, but it's the thing where it's like, Kendrick is a cutie patootie, but you are always also like, don't piss him off, because his line is not our line, right? Like, his crossing the line is not our crossing the line. They are leagues apart. Right? And he wants you to feel that he's a bit unbalanced in that way, or just that
don't try him,
right? And his out of control, or his like line is a little bit closer to the surface, so that you're just like,
you don't want to flip that switch, and you never know what's going to trigger it, so you
don't know exactly,
so you do your best,
so you just don't start nothing, won't be nothing, don't tell no lies on him, he won't speak no truths on you. That's what he wants. He wants you to have him at that level of, he is not.
But that's if he respects you. When he doesn't respect you, he wants you to be scared for your life, which is how he initially treated Bree. Now that he cares about her, he now has to try to make up for the fact of who he was before to her. And so I feel like that's weighing on him, because he's like, I started off with her wanting her to see my demon side prominently. Now I'm scared for her to see my gift, because she's already susceptible to it, because I've already pushed her to see me that way.
Yeah. And I pushed my demon side at her when I was in full control of my demon side, and now I don't know. And so Valak is explaining kind of, and I do love, and this is the thing about Valak that I love as a character foil to Sel. And he talked about this a lot, like the last couple of, like, just about being balanced, but like because he is Cambion, even though he is a more balanced Cambion, he does understand that push and pull. He has much more control over it, but I think like he can intellectually see like where those lines are. And we also know that he has had enough interactions and engagement with Merlins and like Merlins from the order, like Oved and Oathbound Merlins, to like understand at a deeper level what's going on, and then empathize, because he does have some of that in him, even though it's not nearly as extreme, because he is a more balanced, because he is a balanced Cambion. So he says to Bree, "There have been times when I wanted nothing else but to be unnoticed for the thing clawing at me from within." He says, "Violations of consent and trust to the front, of course, but it's clear he did not wish for you to see him that way. He didn't want you to see him out of control." He also says earlier, like, hunting and running blur together. You start out with the goal to chase down the bad thing. All good. But if you can't catch the bad thing, you dial your own hunger up. You let your instincts take over, and then all of a sudden, you become the most deadly thing in the woods. And Valak doesn't know this, but like, I think that really speaks to like what was happening between Sel, Bree, and Nick in Legendborn, where Sel was hunting Bree as thinking that Bree was the Gorachel. Bree was who Raz ended up being, Ethan Cooper, right? He was hunting her, but he couldn't catch her. He couldn't find proof. He knew in his bones like something was off. He just chose Bree as the thing. And so then like you dial your hunger up, you let your instincts take over, and then we'll get into this because Bree finally goes into the woods to confront Sel, and we learn about what happens when the instincts take over. So when Bree finds Sel, of course, he drops down from a tree.
Drop down and do your eagle on, girl. I don't know why.
Your owl. Get your owl on. Come on.
I mean, there might be some eagles around there. We don't know.
But I'm saying because, Sel could, without the cuff, Sel could become an owl. So they sit down and talk, and Sel finally really explains what's going on with him, like with his descent. So he says when he first tried to kill Bree, he's explained like what that actually did to his oath, and that he believes that is actually when his descent really started, not when Nick got taken. Not when Nick fell into his most comfortable position as a damsel, but when Sel decided to kill Bree in Legendborn. And he explains like his oath bond with Nick means that not only do they sense when each other is in danger, but when Nick's life is in danger, Sel feels as though his own life is in danger. And that sense of urgency is important because then it makes him, this is the way he explains it, it makes sure that he reacts quickly to like, stop the danger. This seems, we can have a whole thing. It's already taken, this chapter's taking too long, but
trauma.
A plague on Merlin, the original Merlin, and these oaths, because that seems real fucked up. And then on the flip side, when he has the intent to destroy, Nick feels it like it's his own intent. And so Sel knows that feeling unnerves Nick, and admits that at times they will use that bond. They have been known to use those bonds to hurt each other. finding the loopholes, right? It's very toxic, right? He says, like, he cannot harm Nick or hurt Nick with, like, the intent to, like, actually cause harm, right? So if they're sparring and stuff like that, his intent is to make him a better fighter, but he can use that intent of making him a better fighter to, like, cause harm and to hurt him and to leave some bruises. But he couldn't just, like, if he just wanted to leave bruises, which to me is like, if you know that, then you already know that your intent is not actually to make him a better fighter. Your intent is to leave. You know what I mean? I'm just like, listen, I have questions, but also, fuck Merlin. And so he knew that Nick was not listening to his warnings about Bree. And he said, like, at this point, everyone could see how Nick felt about Bree. And that he was not only upset that, or angry that Nick wasn't listening, but that, like, he knew something was wrong, but he didn't have proof. So it was like Nick not trusting his word, because Nick also knew more about Bree than Sel did. That doesn't come into Sel's mind frame at this point. And that he wanted Nick to feel his intention to kill Bree. And said that even before then, at, like, one of the earlier interactions, Nick went to Sel and begged him to leave her alone because it hurt and it felt wrong. And then because of that conversation, Sel knew his intent to kill Bree would poison the part of Nick that was beginning to love her. And that he would always have to live with the feeling of wanting to kill Bree himself, even though it wasn't his desire, it was Sel's desire. He felt it as his own. So he would just, so Sel's goal, even if he doesn't succeed in killing Bree, is to poison their relationship, because whenever Nick looks at Bree after this point, he's going to remember the guilt of wanting to harm someone he loved. That is a level of fuckery and, like you said, toxicity that, like, I can't even really fathom.
It's like, it's sad because I can understand the rationale, because in his mind, F it, I have these feelings for Nick, and I'm not gonna be able to realize them anyway. So I'm gonna be destructive for anything that Nick has feeling towards, because I'm not able to live out my feelings for him. So F anything. And then lo and behold, he's self-sabotaging because he also kept his feelings for the same person that Nick kept his feelings for. So not only
the triangle.
So not only has he sabotaged his relationship with Nick and whatever it could be, whether to try to get around the whatever is keeping them from being together, he's also, without thinking of, like, unknowing that he was going to actually develop feelings, self-sabotaging himself in relationship to Bree. So it's like the whole throuple is doomed by Sel's actions alone. On a Sel side, he can't even blame Nick or Bree for the toxicity that's entered their relationship, because he has sabotaged it himself and he knows that he did it.
Yeah.
At least the man's not in denial.
Right. And I will say, there is no excuse, and it is toxic as fuck, but the level of, like, self-awareness is impressive.
We can appreciate it.
Like, you can appreciate it, right? So he admits that, in part, and I think he says it in the way that it's like, now looking back, like, not in the moment he didn't recognize that this is what's happening, but now, since he's been, like, ruminating and basically obsessing over it since it happened, he abused the oath because it didn't seem fair to him that Nick was happy when Sel wasn't. And I think it goes exactly to what you're saying, right? Like, he's upset because he can't have Nick, but it looks as though Nick is starting to have someone else, right? Nick is getting to have Bree, and have with Bree what Sel wants to have with Nick. It's just...
Love torture is the worst kind of torture, because it's like, let me just tell you, because like from my varied experience as the adult that I am, and then like my friends' experiences and all the traumatic television and movies that I watch, love torture is a very specific and maddening, like literally like insanity maddening kind of torture, because some of it is self-directed and you're like, what am I doing? And sometimes it's only after you've done some things that you really can't take back that you're like, I am the problem and I don't know how to heal what I did.
It is, I mean, we've talked so much about how triangular this triangle is in a way that I really hope is like studied and taught in creative writing classes from now until
Please never hinge again and call it a triangle.
Please. This is, if you want to write a triangle, this is how you fucking write a triangle, right? So anyway, so then Bree asks if that's when he thinks that he began to succumb to the blood. And he goes, yes, but I didn't start to worry until later when Sel starts to see what he thinks Nick sees in Bree. And so he says, only a monster could look at you and want to destroy you. Right? So once he recognizes that, like, oh, she's not a demon. She's just a girl, a dumb girl who just ran into this, just knocked on the door of this big old conspiracy with no plan.
Racist and capitalist regime.
Demon hunting org with no real plan. Easy peasy. Then he can like really start to like understand why Nick is falling for her too, because now like her eagerness and her like bravery and all that stuff is seen through the light of someone who is not a demon and is not trying to like tear down the order, well, in the way that Sel thinks he is, right? But is just trying to get some answers. And so then looking back, he's like, well, what was up with me that I saw this and thought the only answer is that she's a demon? I'm the monster, right? Like, there's something deeply wrong with me that I recognize this as a demon threat and not just this beautifully naive but brave girl who's also kind of fine. What am I gonna say? I don't know. I don't understand. And so he says he knew that he was succumbing, but he didn't trust himself around Bree, and that's why he started to mesmer her. So he says, my judgment is not what it should be around you, Bree. It never has been. And then she asked, and this is where like we've already established, Porshèa's explained that like Sel has fucked the triangle up. It's like made this into a shit show. But now we start to see like Bree's part in making this love triangle, just beating and battering this thing, these connections. So then she asked if the mesmer affected how she felt when they were close. And he's like, they were only ever visual. And so then Bree's starting to realize like she cannot blame him mesmering her for wanting like his touch, for like how she felt when he called her devourable, or like splayed his hand on her back, right? But she can blame him for taking advantage of those feelings and abusing their connection in the way he abused his connection with Nick. So Bree cannot know what was real. Partially, this is because she's also feeling guilty because of
her feelings for Nick,
wanting him while wanting Nick, while he wants Nick and Nick wants her and Nick wants him.
Also, I just want to say that this is we're talking about how complicated and complex and like toxic this like triangle is. But I also want to talk about like this. If you look at this in like romantic story kind of tones, this is just a love confession. And look how complex and tortured this love confession is. And something I love me a good mutual pining, longing, angsting love of romance. And this one is especially so because even as they're giving a confession of sorts to each other, there's something that's very like compulsive about it. Like they can't help themselves but to have to explain where these feelings are coming from and like why they've acted the way they have, like like what that has come stemmed from, and like their concerns about them. And it's like it's satisfying in a way because um all love confessions are satisfying, I feel. Even if it's like, oh no, he's gonna tell her that he loves her, but cringe, she doesn't love him back. This is really sad. It's still kind of like relieving to have it over with because it's like at least it's over. At least he doesn't have to keep walking around thinking that if he only tells her it's gonna solve everything, because it's not. She's gonna feel that way about him, right? So something about a tortured love confession just is very alluring to me. And this one is just like sad and like it's torturous.
Yeah, it's very something you should work through with a professional with some letters behind their name. Because what?
Not this one.
What?
Not this one. Not this
what?
one.
I will say though, I do like. I say like as coming from a romance girly who like give me the happily ever after. Forget the third act breakup. Like just
I
give
don't
me
like
the
the third act
cozy.
breakups. You can sell them every once in a while. Give me an actual issue. Like if it's a third act thing, give me an actual
I like the third
issue.
act breakups when it's not like just a glaring.
I don't need it to
if
be.
y'all would have used your words,
No.
it would have been fine.
If it's not, I like it better whenever they have like it's not even like a breakup. It's like
it's just like something.
Like or like they actually like not even that they get separated. The ones I like the most, I think, so far have been the ones where they're like, oh crap, something major's going down. We got to team up and figure this out together because it's not like those are my favorite ones. I like to see.
Yeah,
it's
we can't have the happily ever after until we
work this out
thing.
together.
Yeah.
And I like that because it's like you actually get to see them as a couple dynamic because you saw them fall in love. You saw them like on dates, but let's see them in action as a couple. And sometimes I feel like in previous iterations of romances, they wait until like the second or third book in a series where you see the past previous couple show back up and see them. And like, I don't want that. Go on and show me them in action as a couple in the book with them in it.
Yeah.
Then I enjoy that.
Yeah. This though gives me the like, and I do like books like this, where it's like it's not that it's no one's fault, but sometimes even with communication and understanding and acknowledgement of rights and wrongs and really like true genuine remorse, some things just cannot be overcome, right? Partially in this section, it can't be overcome because Nick's not here and there is a third party.
Also, Sodas has a lot of work he has to go through. Like he has a lot of self-healing that he needs to go on. He needs a separate path to get himself back into a place where he can not bring toxicity isn't his first knee-jerk reaction to doing something.
Right. And I think too, and we'll see, I hope we'll see this as the series goes on. I think for a lot of the Legendborn or a lot of the people, the kids in the order, a lot of that is going to have to be distancing themselves and reprogramming themselves from what they've been taught.
The cult.
Like a lot of the cult, exactly. A lot of Sel's major issues stem from shit that was force-fed him and indoctrinated into him. And that not to say that Sel is blameless, and not to say that he don't come with his own Sel flavored issues, but like a lot of it that like needs to be unlearned and stuff is because of the fact that he grew up in a cult. A cult that stole his mama from him. Let's also call a thing a thing. So she's getting ready to walk away. I would say, reached an understanding. Things are not back to normal. She's not forgiven him, but like she's understanding his thought process. He is accepting how much he hurt her and violated her trust, right? But before she can like really walk away, Sel says, no one knows what will happen if a Merlin kills an awakened scion of author. And that he's scared that he could still hurt her. And so she's like, you trying to kill me, Sel? And he's like, I don't want to hurt you, but like, obviously I am succumbing. I am not okay. And that should be a part of your, it's something that you should be aware of, right? And so she says she could send him away to find Nick. And he's like, yes, you could do that. But she doesn't say anything else. And she returns to the house and immediately gets ready to do a blood walk.
Can I tell you that I'm having this moment myself where I'm contemplating the role of someone putting emotional labor on you instead of owning it for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the energy I'm getting for Bree is get someone else to do it, honestly, because yes, Sel is opening himself up to be controlled in a way after having like kept Bree from being able to control her own reaction to him. He's like, you know what? Let me show my belly, my vulnerabilities. You tell me what to do about going after Nick, and I you can have full ownership over it. I will not fight you. I will do it. If you tell me to go find Nick, I'll go find Nick. If you tell me to go do something else, I'll do something else. You're my king, whatever. So in a way, I feel like he's trying to play into the thing that Bree has been insecure about, which is like not being able to own her leadership, not having anyone actually pledge to her and mean it and show it in their actions. Her ego, basically. Mm-hmm. And in this moment, she's trying to talk from the heart. She's reacting from the heart. And this is not actually compelling to her. It's actually making things worse because he's, again, putting the emotional labor. He's tennis ball the emotional labor onto her when he actually needs to hold it and do his own emotional labor and then come to Bree with some solutions. Instead, he's like, let me feed your ego. And it's not feeling right to her.
It's also a matter of like, she said like, well, because it made her feel better about how well he was doing when Nick said, if he thinks he's a danger to you, he will leave. Like, he will do that on his own, right? Mm-hmm. And I think she held on to that a lot. Now she's realizing, no, he's not doing better. And he didn't leave. And then he's like reaffirming that, like, I will leave if you tell me to. And
it's putting the labor on her.
Exactly. And I think she really does need him to say,
this is my limit. I'm going to only get worse from here.
I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the other thing is that, like, he's reminding her, like, he thinks he's doing, like, a ego serving thing by putting it back to her, but it's actually reminding her of her trauma of having her decision making torn from her because she's having memories of not being in control of things as this is happening, and how much she would not like to do what was done to her to someone else. Just where everyone else is looking for control and power, she's been hurt by other people trying to exert control and power, and so she's like, I don't want to do it. And I think it's just like it makes it all even more it puts everything that Sel has confessed even more into side-eye, because we just talked about your misuse of power and trust. And here you're asking, it's kind of like he's asking her to buy in on also misusing power and trust by controlling him.
Yeah.
So you're trying to also make me feel as guilty as you feel, and that doesn't feel like a loving kind of relationship.
Yeah. And it also is like, what Bree needs most from Sel isn't for him to be completely in control, but to be honest about where he is. She needs him to say, I am losing this battle with my oaths. I need to go. She doesn't want to, like, also I think a lot because of what was done to her by the regents and stuff, she doesn't want to say, you can't do this thing. And not in the way of like, oh, she doesn't want to hold on the responsibility or whatever, but just that she doesn't want to take away someone's agency. It's been done to her. He just did it to her. Like, she's telling him what that meant to have her agency taken away, to not be able to, like, make an informed decision, and to have, even when they told her at Jonas's, like, we are going on the run. Like, fuck what was said on the plane, whatever, like, things have changed, we are going on the run. She fights against that, even though intellectually she knows that that's the right thing to do, because she is sick of people telling her what she can and can't do. And so then to, like, make her do the same to him is almost as bad as mesmering her and take, you know what I mean? Like, her having her agency taken away is bad, but then asking her to take someone else's agency away is just as traumatizing.
And it shows you how messed up Sel's understanding of love and of Bree is, where he's like, I tell you what, I'll put it in your court. Like, I feel like part of him thinks like, oh, she's gonna get it, like maybe she'll understand that, like, I trust her judgment. But it's like, this is not you showing trust in her judgment. This is you putting your energy out there of like, I want you to make a decision about my life because I don't want to make that call. 1, 2, I secretly don't want to feel like I'm the only one doing things that feel kind of dicey. Like, if you want to, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's just a lot. And I feel sad for Sel that that's where his, again, that's what his impulses are, and to react that way, especially with someone that he's starting to have those romantic feelings for.
Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective, which provides content through the lens of critical and creative fandom. In BNC's Discord, you can not only find a channel dedicated to all things Wizard Team, but spaces to connect with other fellow nerds about stories across media, genre, and more. Join a group read, find book recommendations, and maybe even get the juice to write your own story. Just go to bnc-community.com to join.
Oh, such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com right now and get up to 45% off select styles, plus a professional measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Are you loving our commentary on Black fantasy stories and want to hear thoughts on more classic tales? Tolkien Black Folks is a hashtag and podcast where you can find all kinds of Black nerdy discussions about Middle-earth. Check out previous episodes on the BNC Presents podcast feed, and if you're a Black Tolkien fan, make sure to use the hashtag during Season 2 of The Rings of Power.
So, chapter 38. Bree immediately goes into this Arthur journey. He says, you are angry, my scion, in pain. She says, yes. Good. Then I will show you why dragons never die. The fact that Arthur is like, oh, you're in pain? Perfect. I got just what you need. I'm going to pray on that and show you something that's going to knock your socks off. It's trauma.
I hate this man. I hate him so much.
he knows he's deserving. I feel like Arthur knows he's deserving of hate. He just, he doesn't care.
He said, you and I both know I'm not a likable person. You and I both know I'm not the hero. I'm the villain in this history.
So his memory, so we get into the memory. It's of Merlin forging something in a stone circle, something that creates the order and assures them that the 13 around the circle will return in spirit until the demon / Shadowborn. They say the Welsh name for it, I am not gonna mess that up for anybody, are all dust. And these terms seem to be set by Arthur, and one wonders why he got to choose the terms about like abatement, all the things related to like the like scionhood and like all of that, because it sounds from how they're talking, it's like, oh, like what it is, like this XYZ. And so like I feel like it's partially like Merlin set it in place, but I feel like if there was any discussion about how it was going to work, Arthur was the one who was like, this is what I feel like the rules should be. They probably did a round table for the like main tenets or whatever, but like I have questions about that. Anyways, how I got into this conclusion is that he tells Lancelot that in order for this the order magic to work, everyone around the round table must believe in it, which feels very Tinkerbell. Like, clap your hands if you want the circle magic that we're about to do to work. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that if Lancelot's his second-hand man and he doesn't know all the terms, but Arthur does, I don't feel like there was a lot of weighing in about the rules and how this was going to work by the rest of the people around the round table.
I think it also comes into the, like, brings up the fact that, like, this is a system of kings and, like, the divine rights of kings, and Arthur must know the right thing because he was chosen by God.
And we don't question.
Bullshit is, we don't question it. So I still put some blame on the rest of the knights and on Merlin and stuff. Though I do understand how it's like, well, if this is what Arthur wants, this is what we should do because that's how they were. That's what they believed or whatever.
And to Arthur's, again, more reasons I hate Arthur. He's like, you're gonna believe in that.
Yeah,
we gotta make this happen. Like, he's like, this. There's no question. You can't doubt me. You never question the king.
And he doesn't doubt himself, which leads them to even more believe, like, okay, well, he's not struggling with this at all.
And that's why
this must be the right way forward.
Far too many sycophants lead us all into the oblivion. Indeed.
Because,
someone is confident in just the right way.
I think there's like the knowledge, like the hindsight bias or whatever, but just like the lack of uncertainty around what this means for the future and how the future changes and how things are not set in stone and how I can't fathom what the world will look like 100 years from now. And I always try to hold that when I'm like reading about history and stuff, and not the founders of this country or whatever, because fuck
the
them.
False founders.
Because like, yeah, exactly. Because like, you knew at the time that owning people was wrong. That was never. That's not a new moral development. This was always wrong. But in other ways of like, the Second Amendment or, all that, like the right to bear arms or militias or whatever, I kind of understand the not being able to foresee how different and how modern and whatever the changes that the world was going to make. I do not understand making these choices, because my whole thing is like, I don't know, like, I am not comfortable making a decision that lasts past 2 years, maybe. You know what I mean? And so like,
that's why people have 2 to 5 year plans. Like we
exactly. It's like, you got it. Like, yeah, you need to like be forward thinking, but like forward to be for fucking real, Arthur. Forever,
ever.
This is what it's gonna be. You No. Absolutely not.
There's something very disgusting about how forever is their reply, and like you hear Wakanda forever, you're like, yeah. You hear Arthur and them saying forever, you're like, that sounds like some cultural appropriation. It feels disgusting. I am perturbed.
Feels very presumptuous. Feels very, very heavy-handed.
But is it presumptuous? Because it comes like they got it though. This white colonizer, like they got it. Centuries of it. Exactly how they drew
Keep that
it.
shit in Wales.
If only. But that's the whole thing. They're
colonizers. Yeah, I know.
Imperialists gonna imperialize, and
it just they trying to imperialize the whole demon realm. So like,
what did we think?
What are we expecting?
What did we think was going? Every time we touch, I get this feeling. So when Arthur and Lancelot touch, Bree is able to connect to Nick and learns that the threat they felt was Nick's party, so his dad, and Isaac being caught by the Mage Guard, who are only able to physically harm Dud Davis. And that, well, as far as we know, that was the person who got harmed. Yes, he should have gotten that harm. And so he has a reaction each time Bree mentions Arthur that I feel like Bree reads it as camaraderie. Like, but here's the thing. Bree is icked out by Arthur, and we know why. She's not been in conversation with Nick about her relationship with Arthur, really. She kind of has it a little bit here, but she really hasn't. So it feels misplaced because she hasn't really had a moment for Nick to react to Arthur the way that she would react to Arthur, at least on her behalf, of like, oh, that guy's still playing around. Like, he doesn't know. So I honestly have like a lot of concern about Nick and his feelings about Bree being having actual Arthur, and I feel like it's very misguided of her to assume that whenever she sees Nick react negatively to any mention of Arthur, that it's at all on her behalf. And I'm sure part of her is like, oh, like I know he has complicated feelings about Arthur because, you know, Nick wanted to deny himself like being the head of the table. So like he just has a thing with like authority, especially with like the order authority. But I don't think that's it, baby. I think there's some things that are related to you being there that you need to talk about and think about with your boy.
See, and I thought it was more about his dad. Like, he hears Arthur and he reacts that way because he's saying Arthur, he's seeing Dud Davis and all of the things about his dad that he can't stand. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying that was like my read of it. I'm very interested though.
It could. I'm not discounting it. I'm just talking.
Right.
I'm just like, I'm very suspicious.
I get it. No, I get it. And I will, I guess like the best way to say it is like, I will go back and read it like with that lens. And if something happens in like the next book, I'll be like, Porshèa clocked it. Cause like the way I clock it is that Homeboy has daddy issues, like has his Arthur issues and his daddy issues. The Venn diagram is a circle.
And also, like, you know, Arthur has some, like, he's long-winded. He's, you know, but he's not been in he hasn't been in, this is the first time he's been in a memory. So he doesn't know the similarities between Arthur and his dad like that. That's why I'm like, I feel like we should be concerned.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I'm saying that, like, she's saying Arthur, but he has conflated Arthur with his dad. He doesn't know Arthur at all, but in his brain, everything Arthur is all of the shit that he,
all the things that his dad has ever told him about Arthur is like, yeah. I get what you're saying, but I'm like, there's something about it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And I think partially, and I like in my notes, I say this thing very like swarmy about the fact that the boy that everyone wanted to be Arthur is gaining access he never would have had, even if he'd become the heir. because of Bree's medium powers. Like, even if he'd been heir, he would have never had like the opportunity to see Arthur's memories. So yeah, I think part of the reason why I have my feelings about Nick and Arthur is that I know that if Arthur had chosen, like, Nick would have been the heir that he awakens in. However, the fact that Bree, the Black girl, is a medium and has access to abilities that Arthur never would have dreamed of having, and is now being able, like, he's not directly interacting with Nick, but Nick now has interactions with Arthur in a way that it just feels icky that they're able to have some semblance of this relationship through Bree, and this relationship that neither of them were going to ever have because they're not blood aligned in that way. And it's all on the back of a Black woman's root craft that neither of them are ever supposed to have access to.
Yeah. And you know what's really, like, I think very infuriating about this, and I see this like in real life all the time too, is that like they are also still so dismissive of her that they don't even acknowledge that it's her power that allows, like, it's like they just feel entitled to it in a way, but can then at the same time still erase her, you know what I mean? Like her and her presence and her being there, being the reason they're allowed this power.
Yeah. This access.
Yeah, it just. Thank God I can't relate. I don't want to ever have the brain that is like, oh yeah, I can see how you get there, because I can't see how you get there. But at the same time too, it's just like, how do you
no one's ever built within you appreciation for the things that you have access to that you could have not had access to, because you've always lived a privileged life, so you just take things for granted because you're used to things coming to you.
But it's also not you hopping, girl. Oh, sorry, I gotta go close her in a crate. This is
containing the beast inside is a it's a journey that a lot of people have to go through, you know? So many things.
Dogs are not meant to be confined. I get it, but
sometimes you gotta contain.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like they're so she's so invisible to them. It's the same way in which people will talk about, like, well, they'll go and like look at like the White House and think about, oh, how marvelous this is, and they ascribe all of that to the founding fathers, whatever, and not the people who actually built the building.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, this is, but then want Black people to not exist, and you're like, but you wouldn't have any of this shit. Who did the building, or even like the anti-immigration, like, they're taking our jobs, the jobs that you don't want and will not do,
the jobs that you're only giving to folks because you can give them a lower rate. So actually, the person who's taking the jobs are the employer. They're just selecting how they're going to pay people and keep from regulating it in a way that people who actually can get a living wage from it can get a living wage from it.
Or like when we were in the mix of the pandemic, and all of a sudden it's like, give it up for the essential workers. These workers are essential. If they're so essential,
why aren't they paid?
Make them safe.
Yeah.
Treat them with
make
the respect
that a job
they deserve.
That people don't mind doing. And that's look. I love going on a good tirade. My capitalism tirade is ready to go, but we're already so into this episode.
I know. But like, damn it.
Yes.
You're using her power. Okay, go ahead.
So Bree and Nick are able to proceed in the memory without detection and see that Merlin, who, as Bree describes him, is like a certified hottie. He has like a long flowing hair. He's got like the demon eyes with the original demon eyes, so they're like super special. Like, he's a hottie, okay? Has called Arthur to extract Excalibur from the boulder that he'd been forging into with an aether hammer. So we've seen people with like the Legendborn have their different aether weaponry appear. Arthur is just magicking up him an aether hammer to forge. We don't know yet, but is Excalibur. And then when Arthur goes to lift out the sword overhead, it's not really just Arthur. Like, at this point, it's Bree Arthur. Like, they share the same like thing, and so does Nick, because they work out that like if they just move forward, their kind of bodies know what to do within the memory because they are that person. When Arthur Bree raises the sword overhead, the round table cheers, the aether crackles, and Merlin tells them all to bend the knee in order to gain. Well, they've already bent the knee to originally become part of the round table. They have to do it again this time to gain new powers. And to me, this feels awfully Power Rangers-esque. Like, if you watch the original Power Rangers movie, they have to like assemble in order to get the latest model Megazoids, and they all gonna have to like, pay obeisance or whatever to the power gods that be in order to get them. And it feels very much like that Power Rangers scene. I'm so sorry. And they all do it in a circle. The parallels are paralleling for me. Bree sees Nick as Lancelot bow to her, and she senses in him awe, pride, and fierce joy as he makes the first pledge, and his eyes gleam with silver aether afterwards. In fact, all of the people of the round table have aether drunken states and sensitivities, including the silver gleaming eyes. And the description of how they're feeling aether drunk sounds very similar to how people talk about the feeling of ecstasy, like how their bodies are tingling and how it feels nice to be like in relation to each other. And one thing that sticks out is that Nick, who has been trained by the Order since he was a child on how to like, poof up his like weaponry out of nowhere, is able to do it super easily. Bree's not. And initially when I read this through, I remember thinking, oh, this is because Nick has all this like time and training behind it. No, this is Arthur being an a-hole. Like, he's like, I will invite you into the memory so you can see how things are supposed to work. But in actuality,
I won't give you the power to do these things.
You're not going to ever know what it feels like because if I give it to you. Absolutely not. And so
hate him
so badly. So Nick pulls Bree out of the memory of out of like the place where they are around the other round table like knights, and they go off to the side and they kind of have a discussion about them, and they consider whether it's the undiluted first oath that they just did in the memory, whether it's the fact that like Bree is like Arthur and he's Lancelot, or their relationship itself that has them having these like heightened sensitivities to the aether that they're feeling during this first forge memory. And while they're over there feeling ecstasy like symptoms and like feeling like sensitive to each other, they start making out, of course, because hormones. And just as Bree mentions the regents keeping them from each other, Nick is pulled back into a cabin and he yells, "I'm at the cabin." And Alice shakes her awake.
I know that this is like, I guess I don't know. If ever I wondered about myself being asexual. It is at times like these. Like, what do you mean you just start making out?
Let me tell you that I've said this to people. I am cishet, I'm pretty sure. But if there's any spectrum I'm on, it's the ace spectrum and not any other. Like we were talking about the romance stuff happening in last episode, and I was like, I honestly miss why people were so into the desirable thing, because I was so concerned about but what does the magic mean? Is this a new power set? What? I just don't see it. For a lot of times, I'm like, romance? Why are we romancing here? I don't devourable. I should be excited about that. I don't get it.
I get what you're saying in terms of as a reader, there's so much other stuff going on, and that's not the thing that
in life
piques
too.
your interest.
If someone
I get that, but I'm saying if we're at a bar, even though please focus up, because you're here to meet Lucille and you're on the run and whatever. But if we're at a bar, the lights are low, the vibe is right. I am in the body of a 6th century dude. I don't care how cute Lancelot is. The dude that I like is shimmering back and forth. What is sexy about, they ain't bathed.
I just don't. I as a girl who grew up in the South and climbed trees can see the appeal of being outside, firelight, woodsy, forest, that kind of thing, being romantic. However,
you're not in your own body though.
I also don't like Nick. So nothing about Nick's personality is where I'm oh baby, I'm ready to get it down in these woods. I actually would be so fine with being we're ready to, can we go now? Do you want to tell me some info?
I know that Bree cannot stand Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot stand Arthur.
But Nick's making out with Bree Arthur, and he's supposed to also have
odd. I could not. My brain could not forget where we're at enough to let lust take over.
I don't know. I feel the way the hormones are working here, they override reason.
Which is why I'm saying that it's how I know my hormones do not hormone that way.
I feel I have a lot of reason in my hormonal moments. Yeah, I can say a couple of times I've made judgment calls that it's okay, that was the hormones, but it's very few. Because it's why? Because I always have a why in my brain somewhere. Anyways.
Yeah. Moving on.
Sel has run in and woken everyone else in the house, and he's told everyone he's felt Nick is unsafe, and then he and Bree run to go find Nick. They figure out that Sel knows the cabin that Nick speaks of, and they convince Alice and Will to stay behind because they're, they have their reasons. So it turns out while on the ride, over to this cabin, that the Davises have at least 8 properties, as one does.
The fact that they are on the run from the Regents, they have 8 properties. I know Sel knows them. Maybe the Regents don't know all of them, but come the fuck on.
And that's what I'm saying. At least 8, because Sel shares that the Regents know that they have 7, and Sel knows about this 8th. But that's only what they told Sel. So we know there's at least 8.
They're not even hotel hopping. They just go to the place.
Well, they couldn't go. They couldn't go to the 7 Regent known ones.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
And they were hotel hopping. They weren't motel hopping. Maybe they did. Maybe they thought no one would they're oh, Dud would never do a motel. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. They were B&B hopping. The cute little old lady
They've been
with
at
the
some
breakfast and
villas
served
and
at
stuff. They've been
9.
at treehouse hideaways. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, I can't blame you. If I had the money, sure would.
Sure would.
Sure would.
I'm just, these mofos are on the run.
In style.
In hiding. At a place in which they own. Off the books.
One of the places off the books. We don't know.
One
more.
of.
There's probably a yacht dock somewhere. Okay. And the Regents only, like, Sel knows about this cabin that the Regents don't know about, only because I'm sure this is probably, like, why do the Regents know of the Davis's multiple properties? Because it's probably a disclosure agreement or something that they have, right? So what it sounds like is that Dud decided that he was not going to disclose this other property because of the loophole that allows him to do that, which is that it belonged to Nick's mother. And her family, which are vassals to the order, sided with the order over her when she defected because they wanted to power grab, which is so disgusting. And this cabin is actually Nick's once he comes of age. So his father is using Nick's property to hold Nick hostage.
It's like when your parents use your credit and you turn 18, all of a sudden you got a shit credit score and you're like, how?
How?
Why is my social security number all over the place?
Why is my cabin house in the line of fire for your effery?
I'm being held hostage in my own home.
In my own home. Somebody read about this, you know? And so along the drive, Sel sniffs. And he can smell the fact that Bree's been making out with Nick. And he responds in a very on-brand way by rolling down the window. Also, we're talking about Bree and how she's showing up in this moment. She now has a silver streak in her hair. Prior to this past memory walk, no silver streak. After this memory walk, silver streak. What's that about?
We don't know. Do we know? We don't know.
We don't know.
Will we know? We don't know.
Is it because Excalibur was forged in front of her face? Arthur didn't have a silver streak that we know of. I don't know.
We don't know.
Is this what happens when you make
out
know. in an Aether memory? Nick doesn't have one. I don't know. So chapter 39. Bree and Sel arrive at the location just as it seems like the Mage Guard have also pulled up. It is like a place that's called Sapphire Estates and Villas, which is like this like vacation club kind of thing where there's multiple different cabins within this like not neighborhood, but basically like a community, like 50 private cabins are up and down this mountain, and it's managed by this club. They are in the parking lot and they need to figure out how to get around the Mage Guard cars they see in the parking lot, and also get around Isaac, who is his, Dud Davis's Kingsguard, in order to get Nick. When they go to follow one of the Mage Guard cars, Sel has a debilitating head pain that causes him to lose control of the car. Which means that Nick is in more danger. And yet, after he basically almost like hydroplanes flips a car, and and Bree takes over and is able to like control the car in a moment, Sel remains behind the wheel.
As you do.
We know Nick is in danger. We're gonna keep the person who has debilitating head and like pain every time Nick has a dangerous moment behind the wheel.
Yeah. What's the problem? Is that not safe?
I know her mama's gone. I need an auntie to step in. And she don't got no auntie. I need some.
No, her mama gone. It's crazy.
I need her to think. What would her mama say? Because sometimes, sometimes it's just like, if my mama were here, nah, she would get into. She'd be like, just give me the mama look, and I'd be like, you're right. I need to make better decisions.
Not even mad.
I'm not.
Just disappointed.
And you're just like,
you did what now, my love?
You're riding in a car with a boy, but
with a demon,
a
half
boy.
demon who's been succumbing,
and then he's connected to another boy
who's in danger.
Who's in danger, and every time the boy's in danger, the boy who's driving the car, because you're not even just in the car, he's driving the car.
He's driving.
Every time the other boy twitches, this one
twitches.
Can't control how his body reacts. Baby, how did we get here?
I feel like you're trying to say that that's not smart. I feel like what you're trying to say is maybe Bree should have been driving while Sel navigated and, monitored his feeling or his physical reactions a little bit better. I feel like that's what you would have done if you were in that situation. No? Yeah?
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah.
Even if the man has to drive, he's speeding on the highway because he sped down the highway.
When he hydroplaned, you think let's switch? No one can see it. It's a podcast, so unless you're watching it, you can't see us. What's it called? I hated it because it was racist, and I knew it was racist, but I didn't know another name for it. When you stop.
I never heard of
there
that before.
has to be you've never heard of this? When the car stops, when you stop and everyone gets out and you race around and then you get back in?
No.
Y'all didn't play this game?
No.
It's why teenagers shouldn't be allowed to have licenses. If someone knows a better non-racist
it sounds like
title
musical car chairs. It's what it's
basically what it is. But it's called like Mexican. Don't make me say it again. So it was one of those things that even as a child, when they're like, or as a teen, when they're like, oh, we're gonna do it, and I was like, I'm okay with it, but it's gotta have a better name.
I never, again, Southern girl. I'm from places like, and they might have did it. I might not have been hanging out with the kids that did that, but cow tipping, mudding, those are the things I'm used to teenagers with cars doing. I don't know about that one. I do know that my main, like, I'm concerned with the dynamic of like, why would you, like, this is not smart, but also like, how do you go, you're following someone. How do you go undetected after you just 360'd a car, squealing wheels the whole time behind the person you're following?
What is it called?
And they all have Merlin hearing. You think you weren't detected? And I get it. I gave it off with like, okay, the mage guard are otherwise occupied. They're probably not like, they hear a weird sound, they got time for that. They're already trying to take over this cabin. I'm not with it. I feel like Sel needs to be sat about, if you're on, I know you have a thing about control and a thing about maintaining a plan whenever you're ahead of a plan.
Oh, sorry. It's called the Chinese fire drill, not Mexican musical. It's still racist. It's not even a racist name. Yeah. It's not better.
No.
It's just, it was bothering me that I couldn't remember the name, and I don't know where. I put Mexican in there probably because I grew up in Southern California. But it's called a Chinese fire drill, which is not better. And I would really love it if someone could let me know if there's a different
term
nomenclature for that. And also, you shouldn't do it. It's really stupid, but this is a city kid thing, I guess. But that's what they should have done.
It's just two of them. They could have just real quick.
Yeah, you just get out, you run, you switch seats before the
fact that they didn't and they are still going undetected. Again, I'm putting that on the preoccupation of the mage guard, but they have super hearing. Anyways. So when Bree and Sel finally pull up, they notice that their battle's already happening inside the cabin. So they're like, oh crap, we gotta go into like a stealth mode because we, one, need to not get caught in the line of fire, and two, gotta like figure out what's actually happening. We can only really like hear the sounds. We don't actually have any visuals for what's happening. So Sel is like, this is it. This is my moment. Spider monkey time. So he tells Bree, like basically indicates to Bree to climb on to compensate for her lack of speed and stealth. And as they pull around to the side of the cabin, the entire A-frame explodes. Isaac then appears in the doorway as the big baddie who set 4 Merlins a mage flame using his cloud ammo wrist. Like, he basically has like poofy aether clouds circling around his wrist, and it kind of like 10 Rings Shang-Chi kind of way, it sounds like. And then he's using it to generate like the mage flame powers to like get people out of there. And the ruination that he does to one Merlin's body is so bad that it sends Bree directly back to her memory of Fitz being like stabbed through by stalagmite during that cave battle in Legendborn.
When are we going to have a discussion about Merlin on Merlin violence and the epidemic that this is? Where are their fathers?
The daddy issues are abundant. Like abandonment through the wazoo.
Like these are these are the people you're supposed to fight against or fight next to. Isaac has, and like the thing I don't understand about Isaac Sorensen, if we're keeping it a buck, and I would like to know a little bit more about him, but also I don't really care because he's the worst, is like, at what point, I know that they're oath-bound in the same way that like Sel and Nick are oath-bound, but at what point are you just like, I can't do this shit?
I'm not entertaining you.
Like, could he have not at some point gone, at the point in which it was like, oh, we about to open up all these gates and cause a Camland. When they were kids, there were no, because when they were kids, Isaac wasn't even his person. It was Sel's mama.
I feel like
at whatever point, like when it's like it could be like a mutually, I'm saying beneficial, but that's not.
I feel like they feed into each other.
They each get glory from it.
I feel like they feed into each other. I feel like it's a evil twin kind of moment. Like if you do it, I'm gonna do it.
Or it's like a victim abuser cycle of like sometimes the abuser is a victim, sometimes the victim.
I've not heard enough about their relationship to get that from their relationship. So for now, it kind of feels like, because he's standing 10 toes down in it, it feels like it's a mutually beneficial situation.
Because I'm like,
it sounds like they're feeding into each other's energy,
right?
Like,
because
and I'll just say that
Doug
like,
Davis's thing.
I think that like he was assigned Sel's mom as mage guard, and I think he chose Isaac. So I think Isaac and he
something in him
similar, like
spoke to him.
He's like, you're the one for me because
you're a bit of me. Yeah, because I feel like Doug Davis's pathology, delusion, or whatever is Camlin happened. Arthur awakens in him and or that past. So Arthur awakens in his son.
Mm-hmm.
And then the order goes back to its like founding mission. It goes back to like caring more about inheritances and power, whatever, and less worldly power. Or the regents basically are like the power goes back into the hands of the Legendborn and out of the hands of the regents. Basically, is the thing. And so at some point, it's like, does Isaac believe with the power goes back into the hands of the Legendborn, then the King's Mage has more power than the Seneschals, right? Because those are the Merlins that have the power with the regent. And so if he is the King's Mage and the king gets power, then he gets power over the Merlin. That's like the one place where I'm like, okay, that is probably like where when he chose Isaac, it was like, we meet here, we believe in this. But what you get from, or what I think that Tracy's trying to express is like, especially with the Mage Guard and stuff like that, like the Merlins, like it's abusive, and the way in which they grow up and whatever is not healthy, but they grow up like an army or a fighting force, and so they fight like even the way like the Legendborns that were like backing Bree or whatever, it's like we serve each other. So at what point in Isaac's descent was it like, fuck it, I'm gonna just burn them to death?
I don't know that if there's actual camaraderie built into the Merlins as they're gaining their craft and they're teaching others. It honestly sounds as like every person's out for themselves, because it feels like that's what the order is in general. And the only people who actually build like a team kind of basis are the freaking Legendborn, like the people who are going to get called, because like they have to be able to rely on each other on the field. But when it comes to the regents, and like everyone else, like the Merlins and everyone, it sounds like everyone's again out for their own. And so like just how they interact with Larkin, and like Sel interactions with Larkin, like, and they like came up around the same time in the Merlincraft stuff. Zhao and like these older, like an Olsen and the older Merlins who trained these younger Merlins aren't even like very genial with them. You know what I mean? Like it's like their power dynamics are that they're always looking for being able to level up at, even if it's at the like pushing someone else down, and it's expensive, like as someone who actually came up, or someone they even taught, someone that you would think they might have a level of like care for because they taught that person. They don't care. And so as the Merlins are talking and Isaac's doing all this like damage, like it's like he's like, I don't know, you know, like I only killed like 2 or 3 of them. I don't know what else you want from me. It's like, because I don't feel like they've ever built a level of like camaraderie or like even like a base level.
And
like,
my thing is, even if you do have to kill them in terms of like it's them or me type of thing, there is a way. I don't know, not killing humanely, but not torturing. You know what I mean? Like you make it quick. Like
No, he wants to be artful. They're like very like they take pleasure in their
this
death
is like
crafting.
a spectacle.
Yeah, they like
yeah.
There's some like I don't know. This is again, you're probably gonna tell me I need to seek therapy. But one of the like animes, I do have a therapist, so the girl's fine. There's some like animes and different like media that I've seen where they're like there's people who like take their being a trained killer, like which is what I like if you're a soldier or any you know what I mean, if you're a trained killer, they take it as it being like an art. And so they go into dealing out death as an art form. And that's what it sounds like the Merlins are doing. Carrie's like, oh, you like how I took this one out? I have I did it like Isaac did a different way of the ones he killed them in different ways, artfully. Oh, that one I didn't kill. Don't you love how I'm so demure? Very mindful, very reserved. I didn't kill those two. I just, knocked them out violently. Because I'm that girl. Like, that's what Isaac's vibe is.
He's crazy.
I mean, which of the Merlins are sane? That demon time is doing a lot. Larkin sounds like the most sane Merlin.
Larkin?
Bree is seeing all these murderous a-holes who traumatize her, like Zal, Isaac, whoever, have traumatized her. They're in action, and it's breaking up her PTSD from being in that cave. And she's seeing all the things that happened to her while she was in the cave, and what happened to, like, rats. Like, it's doing a number on her. And it does not help that the next people who pop up on this cabin site are Erebus and Zal, who confront Isaac and Dud, who have now come out. Like, Dud has now come down to the house and joined Isaac on the lawn. And Bree describes Dud showing up in a way that, like, he's the most proud she's ever seen him. And who wants to be around the most smug version of Dud Davis? Like, oh.
Awful.
I just know this man had a speech ready in his mind to give to Erebus as soon as he showed up. Isaac moves into an offensive and defensive position when Nick shows his face, because Erebus is like, where is Nick? And he's like, okay, I'm gonna put the charges under this like protective like aether barrier bubble. Then I'm also gonna have one of my cloud things ready to pop off if one of y'all come for me. And Isaac is like, bro, you really think you can keep us out? Like, and you're trying to do offense and defense at the same time. I know your vulnerabilities. You're not gonna be able to do this. And I was like, I got it. He does not got it. Erebus immediately cracks that little bubble around Nick and Dud. And soon the Isaac and Erebus are battling head to head with weapons. Nick uses the distraction of them going head to head to run off, and then Dud goes right after him, which is how, when Zal decides to let off his spear, because like Erebus nods over to him mid-battle, basically, Erebus is Usain Bolt. Like, in the middle of this grand action at the top level, Erebus is over here hand-to-hand combat with Isaac, who has just shown us that he is a murderous king's mage. He nods while he's mid-battle with Isaac, looks over to Zal, and is like, let the chopper fly. And Zal lets the sphere fly towards Nick, but Dud jumps in between the spear and Nick and gets gouged. And while the Aether Spear disintegrates, the gaping bloody hole in Dud's body does not. And then his whole body glows in Aether.
I mean, Play stupid games.
And you know who's distraught about this?
Nick!
But also Isaac. Dry eyes all around.
Isaac is magically distraught because of the whole, what's that thing called?
Oh,
agony.
The agony, yeah.
Even though, is it the agony when it's mage to
King's mage?
I don't know, but you know, they, as we can see with Sel, they be going through it in their own special way. So yep.
But dry eyes all around, like even as readers, dry eyes all around.
Sorry that happened to you.
I can't even say that really. Much. Some people gotta go. It's their
I mean, I guess that's a thing that happened.
Narratively, it makes sense. So
listen. Sometimes you sometimes you get your back broke by a demon. Sometimes you get your inside speared by an ether, whatever that.
An ether spear.
Club thing, meteor
spear.
Thing. Spear.
I will say, at least he went out protecting his child. That's the least he could have done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'll give him.
He did do that.
That's exactly what I'll give him.
Yeah.
When Erebus starts to apologize to Nick for it coming to this, Nick's immediate response is to say, "Flame on!" Pulls his armor and his weapons, his 2 swords come into his hands, immediately chops Zal's head off his body. Bree and Sel are in the background watching this all unfold, agog, hands over mouths, shocked for blood. Nicholas is now a killer. And I mean, that's where we end.
Again, he killed Val.
And again, dry eyes all around.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer gentleman.
Are we just saying words now? Are we?
What are we saying? What are we? You know?
You know, you win some and you lose some. And in Zal's last moments, he won something. He played a stupid game.
Won a stupid prize. You know, yes, Nick is a killer. Yes, Nick avenged a shitty father. But he avenged a shitty father by killing a shitty person. I don't know what you want from me here. Sometimes cause and effect, things happen. Who is your MVP?
I MVP'd Miss Hazel because she deserves it. She is the warm, buttery sunlight.
Warm, gooey center.
The emotional well of goodness.
Is she a treat? Is she dessert?
She is a caramel on my Milky Way bar. You know what I mean? And in a story that is wrapped up by so much darkness, I just like appreciate her, but also aspire. You know, she is just, you know, a beacon of things that could come that I really appreciate. And I hope that one day Bree gets to a place where she's like, peace. I could do peace. That would be nice. And she'll like Miss Hazel will be that in her brain. It'll be there as the example for her. I also want to just note that there were things that Sel did this episode that I was like, you know, he's too far gone, too far behind to ever make it to MVP, maybe even by the end of this book. I don't know if that's possible. But he gets a little honorable mention for the things that he did do. He did break down and have the conversation that he needed to have with Bree. He was very honest about it. He did own up for this stuff. But it's stuff that he also did not do and put onto Bree where I can't get with that. So, but I will give him an honorable mention for...
It's like he dug himself so deep in a hole, but this time he filled in the hole a little bit. He's not back on solid ground. He's definitely not on a pedestal, which is what you need to be MVP. But his hole is less deep than it was when we started.
Absolutely.
This episode. I get you.
Absolutely. How about you?
I have two honorable mentions who could very well be MVPs in their own right. But one is Valak, but he's barely really in this, but whenever he's here, I just feel like we need to acknowledge that Valak stands on business, says what needs to be said, and we'll even be like, I don't rock with how he did the thing, but let me put you up, but you both are suffering and it's annoying me, so let me at least shed light to alleviate some of this. I didn't cause the suffering, I did bring the suffering to light, but now it's annoying. So let me at least give you a little bit of a balm to start the healing process. I give him that. I give Miss Hazel an honorable mention because of everything that you said. But the actual MVP is the porch. Healing was had on that porch. Camaraderie was made on that porch. Peace, even for a moment, was felt on that porch. That porch in the middle of Georgia at a station for the Root community gave solace and peace and did what it needed to do. So the porch. And it's not the porch's fault that they chose the world's worst hairstyle to go fight demons, but hair was done. And it needed to be done, and it was done in a way that felt full of camaraderie and all that good Black shit. So the porch was my MVP.
I hear you.
Who did you bitch?
My instincts tell me that Nick needs to be bitched for the things that are occurring in this episode. But I don't have evidence, okay?
Was not expecting. When I tell you I was not expecting that. I mean, he didn't just kill someone, so I mean, I guess that's reason.
That's not the reason.
For the person he killed.
That's not the reason. It's all my suspicions I have about how he's actually reacting to Arthur. It's the fact that he kind of that he killed someone. It's that it's a descent into something that I think we're going to see in the next book. And I'm going to say that this is the episode that we need to point back to whenever we get into Nick's descent. So I'm going to be like, that's what I was meaning. That was what I was feeling. That was what I was catching. The vibes I was catching.
Started here.
Well, I've never really
didn't start here, but they were confirmed here.
I just need evidence. I have no evidence, okay? So that's the problem.
Okay, you sound I'm not saying this to say anything, but I am saying you sound a lot like Sel a couple chapters ago when he was like, Nick wasn't believing me, but I knew. I had no hard evidence, but I knew.
Sel was right that there was someone in the thing who was a problem.
And you might be right too. You might also
Nicholas
be wrong about who that person
I do.
is.
I have owned my anti-Nick bias from the very beginning.
You have.
I've never been delusional.
Never shied away from it.
I'll tell you straight up. This is what I feel. Again, but I'm not benching him. Because look, the girl doesn't have evidence. And so what does she do? She does not bench somebody when she doesn't have evidence. She just raises the red flag of, I have a red flag, okay?
You're just telling us to keep an eye out.
Stay ready, okay?
I got you.
So who I actually ended up benching is Erebus. Because he's the whole problem. He is the hunter. He is the Demon King. He is the reason why, partially at least 25 to 50% the reason why the hideaways and volition have to exist. He's the reasons why like he's been a part of the order long enough to have messed up the whole scope of how the Merlins and demonhood and all that works. It's so much. And so when he shows up at the end of this episode, ready to kill Nick as soon as he pops out of the car, like a police officer is ready to pop out of his car and shoot children. Also, as an aside, do you know who are the number one cause of deaths for pets in the United States?
Cops?
Cops.
Are you kidding me?
No. 10K.
I believe it, but
year.
also... I believe it, but also... How dare.
I don't feel like it's talked about enough. I feel like if enough Karens and Beckys knew about it, there would be more outrage. And I just need...
I agree with you.
Do your part in spreading the word if you're listening.
Because listen here. John Wick is not a very believable movie, but the most believable thing is
a puppy.
Fuck with my dog. And
it was a baby too. It wasn't even like it
was a... Let's not even... I said, I know they're not about to kill this dog. And someone told me, they said, listen, Robyn, the pet dies. But
you're like, it can't be this pet. It's like some other pet.
It gets revenge. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're like, a pet does die, but that pet is avenged. And I said, okay. And then that baby showed up. I thought, where's the old man dog that dies? Who's had a nice full life? What do you mean? What do you mean? Anyway, we've gone on too far. Okay.
Sorry. But Erebus, how did I get that from the...
Because Erebus showed up
like a cop. As soon as he got out of there, he was like, bring me the boy. The boy shows up, spear to his back. Like, sir, you're the Demon King.
So this is a Wendy's, excuse me.
Also, like, so I felt like it was a power move. I felt like he was like, oh, like, I'm gonna sling my own weapons. I'll make the lackey do it. Even though he seemed like he had the capability of doing it, so he was like mushing Isaac by the head as he was giving the order to Zach. Like, he could have did it if he wanted to. I guess he just didn't want to expose the fact that he's the Demon King. I don't know. Erebus.
I think he wanted it to be like, Nick is dead. I fulfilled my obligation. But then to all the other Merlins, I didn't do it. For anyone that felt a little bit icky about killing
the one that we
in Awakened Scion,
the person that we filled
they
up,
should have been Arthur.
That we groomed to be the freaking Arthur.
He's like, I'm playing a long game. They don't know I'm the Demon King, and I don't need nobody coming after me on some revenge shit. Yeah. So yeah. What about I benched Arthur because he's in the he's in the chapters, and I just feel like he can't not, but also because of what we were talking about with, like, he literally set up what this is, and so it does rest on him and his lack of thinking about the future in a way that does not center himself and his wants and what he thinks is whatever. But then also, I wanted to bench Erebus for the way in which he murdered those other Merlins. I think the other Merlins, like, didn't deserve to die or are good people, but just in the sense of, like,
where's your code?
Yeah, right. But then I had to take it all the way back. So Arthur, the OG Merlin, and Merlin's TN. Because the original Merlin should have been like, hey, I'm a balanced Cambion. We could still have Merlins. They could follow a code or whatever, but we need to infuse. We need balance. We can't just, they just can't be a drop of me. That's gross. How about we name the order after myself, right? Like you got the Legendborn and they all have Scion of Arthur and Scion of whatever. And then the Mage Guard can be Scions of Merlin. And my legacy continues, or whatever the fuck your ego needs to help you feel good. But instead, his ego needed them to have his blood, which made them act crazy. So Arthur Merlin and Merlin's TM.
I mean, the way the Merlins are Merlining, it doesn't look good for them. No.
Especially now that we've met Valak, and I'm like, it don't have to be this way. You mean to tell me
the demon is actually able to not full on demon all the time? Like that's a possibility. When you have more drops, that's just I still am boggled by that. If you have demon, the more demon you have, the more likely you'll be able to balance yourself. If you have demon and it's less demon, that more you're just a girl out here unstabilized, really having a hard time.
It very much gives me the like, you know, like the royal family's not okay because all the inbreeding is what I get from like Merlins, and I just think that stems a lot from just
I understand it like
OG Merlin's ego.
Yeah, I understand it genetically, but like it's just so funny that they have so much distaste for people who have more demon in them. And I was like, but y'all, the ones who have the least, are the ones who have the most problems.
Exactly. It does not have to be this way.
It don't.
All right. Thank you for listening. Join us next week when we discuss chapters 40 through 42.
Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Wizard Team Pod and at Black Nerds Create.
Bye.
Thanks.